A 26-year manhunt for Rwanda's most wanted man has finally come to an end. French intelligence agents tracked down Felicien Kabuga. He's believed to have bankrolled the 1994 genocide in Rwanda. Authorities say Kabuga was a slippery customer with more than 20 known aliases. He faces 7 criminal charges, including genocide. Well, to unpack the significance of this arrest, I'm joined by international relations expert Dr. Charles Sinkala via Skype. Dr. Sinkala, good morning and thank you very much for your time. I mean, it is really a significant development, especially for the victims and survivors of that genocide in Rwanda. There's no other way of looking at the arrest of Kabuga.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good morning to you and your viewers. Yes, indeed. I think it has refreshed the wounds which were buried, not forgotten. And I think, it has brought a lot of memories. Yeah, it's a sad situation, but, we must look at it at a different angle. Usually, the genocide of Rwanda has been one of many which has been investigated either by the Rwandese government themselves and the outside international community.
Yeah, I saw a reaction by the organization that represents survivors of the genocide from Rwanda who were welcoming it, but they've got a lot of questions that they want to be answered, like how could he have evaded authorities in several countries where he allegedly lived, like Kenya, like Germany, like the UK, and now like France, for a quarter of a century?
Yes, indeed, there is a lot of questions which have been raised, and been raised actually over the years. The Rwandan genocide, it depends on what angle one will look at it. If you start looking at it at an angle from 1994 on the 6th of April, when by then the president of Rwanda his aircraft was gunned down, you'll be not looking at an angle of perspective, which you're going to have more information on what actually caused the Rwandanese genocide, which killed more than 1 million people. You need to look at the Rwandanese genocide from as early as the colonial time, when the Germany and the Belgium, they shared Rwanda as a colony, where there was some infighting. And before that, actually, Rwanda was a monarch, which was governed by the Tutsis, basically. And after the Tutsis were overthrown or negotiated, that the colonizers were took over the Belgians, and the government was formed by the colonizers. But after 1962 independence of Rwanda, the Hutus, who the majorities, had to take over the governance of the country. And from that independence, we see a history of proper disunity and hatred in terms of ethnicity and racial backgrounds. Rwanda was never the same, and it's been believed that the 30 years first of the independence was a wasted time and the waste history of the Rwandese, because most of the Tutsis were displaced. They were regarded as enemies within the Rwandanese government and society, and most of them fled to Tanzania, Zaire, Congo at that time, and Uganda. And most of them, they regrouped, especially if you talk about Uganda, where they were refugee camps there. President Museveni, he actually used them to win the elections, to bring him into power. But to fast track the story about the Rwandanese government, that's where Paul Kagame, who was one of the general and commanders in the Ugandan army, who fled his country, Rwanda, and was given a very high position. And from there, he was actually supported by Yoweri Museveni to go back to Rwanda and start fighting the country, what belongs to him. But
yeah, now, Dr. Sinkala, sorry, I mean, that's a lot of history, and thanks for giving us a bit of background to see, I mean, all the divisions and the disunity and the troubled history of Rwanda. But when we come to today, post-1994, I mean, the arrest of Felicien Kabuga, who will be standing trial soon and maybe provide answers to many questions that might be relevant, particularly for the victims and survivors of that 1994 genocide. How important is it that justice must be seen to be done in this specific case?
Yes, we all support that justice must be done, but the question we have to raise is the history for people to understand, and hence I deliberated on the background so that even the victims themselves must understand that this is what led to the genocide in Rwanda, and arresting Kabuga now is something, yes, of refreshment, but what's the intention and the motive of him financing the war? Kabuga was one of the renowned businessmen who helped the Rwandanese people, including both the Tutsis and the Hutus, where he came from. He had the farms where he cultivated the tea and the tobacco and other resources. He had actually the television, the radio station, where he was trying to assist government. And actually part of his two daughters were married by then the president at that time. So if you look at the background of the man whom been depicted by the international community, that is one of the financiers, the one who used his radio and television channel to influence the ethnic groups which were fighting. And most of these issues, if you look at them to a length, and the people who've been interviewed in the prison, they will tell you that most of them, they were voluntarily participating in acting and using the machetes and the hoe, all the farming implements. And if you look at the report which has been published regarding the genocide, you find that they have accused the Kabuga as the mastermind simply because of the implements he purchased between the period of 1990 and 1994 leading to the genocide. And it is actually not true. And if you look at the influence of the international community, especially France, and I'm not surprised that he was found in France, and this is raises the questions by the victims. They are asking why all this time he has never been arrested. Kabuga stayed in Kenya and he fled to Switzerland. He was almost arrested. He went to the Democratic Republic of Congo until he disappeared. In 1997, he was charged, outside of his country by the International Criminal Tribunal of Rwanda, and that was disbanded by Paul Kagame in 2016 for the reason that he has reshaped Rwanda to be united on the basis of calling everybody as a Rwandanese and not as Tutsis and Hutus. Because post-election and the independence, rather, there was that issue of calling each one of them either by Tutsi or the Hutus. And even in their national registration cards, the ID numbers, they were classified as that.
Yeah. So there's a lot, Dr. Sinkala. So I wish, Dr. Sinkala, sorry to come in there. I wish we had more time. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to delve into a lot of that nuance that you are bringing out in terms of the history and what led to such deep-seated hatred and led to the genocide. But for now, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. We've just run out of time. Thank you very much, Dr. Sinkala, for some of that. Just giving a little bit of context of what lies behind what has happened in Rwanda, and now, of course, with the arrest of the alleged mastermind, Felicien Kabuga.